A dog attack in Brooklyn Park sends a girl to the hospital with the bite injuries to her head. Meanwhile, police say they had to resort to extreme measures to subdue the animal. Delane Cleveland has more on the case and what police describe as the unpredictable nature of pets.
Shannon, I'm on the 8100 block of Astor Drive North in Brooklyn Park. Friday afternoon, a 9-year-old girl was attacked by the family dog in her backyard. What happened next is what police are calling a last resort.
They are animals. They don't understand the world as we do.
Sometimes pets can be unpredictable, which is something a Brooklyn Park family learned the hard way last week.
Animals do things instinctively. When you mix children with animals, really strange things can happen.
Brooklyn Park police say they received a call Friday afternoon that a pit bull was attacking a child.
The dog wasn't running loose. The dog attack happened at the residence where the dog belonged. It was in a fenced-in backyard, so the child and the dog were part of the same household.
Faust says a neighbor heard the girls screaming and went to the house to help.
The officers got there, found actually one of the neighbors was trying to fend the dog off with a stick, but unfortunately the dog had already attacked the child. It bitten her repeatedly.
Faust says the officer then got between the dog and the child to help prevent further harm, but the dog didn't back down, prompting the officer to use lethal force.
Shooting a dog is the last thing that the police officer wants to do. I can tell you after I watched the video, the officer did not resort to that immediately. It was a last resort. As the dog continued to walk the officer down, there was nowhere to retreat. He had already retreated. He was maintaining a barrier between the child who was behind him and the dog kept walking him down, and really there was no choice at that point in time.
Meanwhile, Faust says the child suffered significant injuries and was transported to the hospital, but is expected to recover. The officer who fired the fatal shot is now back to work.
He was distraught over the incident. It's the last thing that any one of us wants to have to do.
In Brooklyn Park, Delane Cleveland, CCX News.
Brooklyn Park police say a detective has been assigned to the case, but they don't believe any charges will come from this incident. All adoptions from the Animal Humane Society are now on hold. The center shut down because of an outbreak of canine influenza.
It looks not that different than a lot of different respiratory viruses and bacteria that cause very similar clinical signs.
The 3 locations in Golden Valley, Woodbury, and Coon Rapids have nearly 200 dogs total. Dr. Brayshaw said at any given time, usually about a quarter of those have some kind of minor respiratory illness.
It happens with, if you think of kids in daycare, mixing them together. What we saw here was all of a sudden that quarter became half, became 3/4, and on average they were sicker than our usual animals.
The shelter is expected to stay closed for about a month as it hopefully moves all dogs back to normal health and can then resume operations. A Golden Valley resident is suing the mayor and the city, claiming a statement by the mayor last year was defamatory. Mark Friedrichs is listed as the vice president of the Golden Valley Crime Prevention Fund. According to the suit, Friedrichs claims the mayor libeled him in a statement that said, quote, members of the police department are receiving ethically questionable financial perks through the Crime Prevention Fund, creating the perception of conflicts of interest and preferential treatment to certain residences and businesses, end quote. The mayor's statement did not specifically name Friedrichs. A separate suit also accuses the city of being complicit to the false statement claim. The civil suit seeks a written apology and damages from the city in the amount of $250,000. Nice spring weather on Monday brought along with it the start of road construction season. MnDOT started work on replacing the Rockford Road Bridge over Highway 169 between Plymouth and New Hope. Construction is expected to last through the fall. Along with the bridge, all ramps surrounding that area are now closed. This weekend, Highway 169 will be closed altogether between 394 and 94 as crews remove the old bridge. 169 is scheduled to reopen before the morning rush hour on Monday, April 17th. Meanwhile, police responded Monday morning to a single vehicle rollover accident involving the driver of a large recycling and trash removal truck. Emergency crews responded shortly after 10 a.m. Monday to the scene near 56th and Boone Avenues in New Hope. Police say the driver was transported to a local hospital. No word on what caused the crash. The Minnesota State Patrol is assisting in this investigation. You could say a small business owner in New Hope has found a naughty niche. Angie McGuire specializes in snarky greeting cards, and as Rusty Ray explains, some dirty words are now helping to wipe away a lot of school lunch debt.
Sometimes a card can say what you're thinking, and you're thinking, that's what I would have written on the card, but somebody else put it on the card, and it looks better that way.
Angie McGuire works from her home in New Hope, nailing the perfect sentiment for just about any situation.
I'm doing some packaging right now
On cardstock.
When you're buying our product, I do think that you have somebody in mind. You see the card, you read it, and you think, oh, this is the perfect card for that one person.
She started Muddy Mouth Cards in 2011.
When I started this company, I thought, I don't want to make dirty cards because my mom will be disappointed, but if I make them watered down, then they're muddy.
The content can be a little blue for some.
We have a birthday card that's in our top 3 every single year. Another year of being pretty awesome.
Still, she's tried to make it as green as possible.
These are our plant-based sleeves, recycled envelopes. Each item gets individually packaged.
Occasionally, she donates proceeds to charity. Right now, that includes money going to pay off school lunch debt at her daughter's school, which is part of Robbinsdale schools.
Out of the 11 schools, they start at $2,000 in debt, and they increase from there. So that's a lot of debt, a lot of families that could definitely use some help.
Starting next school year, the state will pick up the tab for all student meals, but that's still several months away.
I'm so grateful that the bill was passed and that those kids are not going to be struggling with that any longer starting in the fall. But we're not to the fall yet. So we still have kids that are accruing debt. We still have a long ways to go. We still can do more, I think, to help them.
A motive that's nothing but nice, helped along by cards that might be, well, just a tad naughty.
Congratulations. Finally, you two can stop living in sin.
In New Hope, Rusty Ray, CCX News.
You can donate by buying certain cards or just giving a cash donation through Angie's website.
It's finally starting to look a whole lot more like spring. Here's a preview of the Osseo softball team. There's excitement around the Osseo softball program this spring. A team trip to Florida kick-started the Orioles.
I honestly think that the trip helped a lot. I mean, just getting out there, getting on a real field, just playing reps that aren't in the gym, in the dome, like seeing the sun, how the weather affects balls.
And it was really nice to have practice like on a real field and like outside in the nice warm weather. And you know, nobody got too sunburnt, just very enjoyable. And I think it brought us all together as a team even more.
While it won't be a full-fledged co-op program, players from Park Center will be part of the Osseo program at the varsity and JV levels this spring and next, including standout Brooke Dobler.
Definitely, we got a couple good girls from Park Center, and it's also just fun to have some new people in the mix, and they're really talented. So
we've got one Park Center girl on varsity and she really complements the team well. She's already fit in great.
Outfielders Tessa Strand and Lindsay Varney, catcher Julia Wascott, and second baseman Natalie Molnau are captains for Osseo. They won 6 games last spring, but a veteran group thinks this team will be better.
We have a pretty old varsity team. We have a lot of seniors, 11 I think. So a lot of our varsity team has had previous varsity experience. So I think we're all making leaps and bounds already from last year.
Our goal has always been to finish above 500 in conference play. One goal that we stated at the end of last year was to at least host a first-round section game.
Use of game fields for most teams might still be a ways off, but Osseo's artificial turf field and warm temps expected in the days ahead have the Orioles optimistic they could play scheduled games in the week ahead.
we have a field cleanup on Saturday, so we're going to be shoveling off some snow in hopes to get it down. So we're looking to be playing those games on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We got Andover and Rogers coming up, so big games, so we're ready.
They are more than eager to get started at Osseo. The Armstrong baseball team also has a lot of returners. Here's what the Falcons expect this spring. They're back in the northwest suburbs where winter held on longer. But the Armstrong baseball guys did benefit from a team trip to Lawrence, Kansas.
Oh, well, it was awesome. I never experienced anything like that. We didn't do that my freshman or sophomore year, and it was really fun. I feel like we're a lot ahead of we have been in the other years.
Trip was great. It's good to get a lot of reps in early in the season, get outside, throw some long toss. Got about 300 swings a day.
It was great because we got a ton of reps in, and it was nicer weather, so it's better than being in a dome or a gym. So, and also team bonding.
This trip was great, just like the other ones we've done. COVID had kind of pushed that out the last few years. This trip was just kind of a reminder for me how awesome it is to get that team bonding, that team chemistry, and it's a really easy way to get those kids together. It's also just a chance for them to get outside.
The Falcons didn't have a great season in 2022, winning just 6 games. They did gain some valuable experience, though, and have a lot of returners, with players like first baseman, pitcher, outfielder Dayton Franke, a third-year starter as a junior, outfielder and DH Drew Kemple, another 3-sport standout, and third baseman Andrew Barich.
We return a lot, and we have a nice pitching core this year, so that's always beneficial. And up and down the roster, we have hitters, so we'll be better.
You know, there was some disappointment. I don't think we were as successful as we could have been. There were some tough losses, and there were some bad losses that we thought, and we talked through those a lot last year, and we're hoping that pays off this year and understanding what it is to win and understanding what Falcon baseball is.
As Armstrong looks to improve this spring, the good news is that Section 6-4A looks wide open.
Makes you feel good, a little more confident that it's open, because if we go in there, play our best, and do what we can do, we'll compete with those teams, Wayzata, Hopkins, all those other teams. So,
Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
Find more prep sports games and highlights at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.